Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this fifth day, 20 days from Christmas. Jeez, I don't know what's happened to this year. Got a great show with you on for tonight. Trevor Lawrence, the Jags, I tell you what, he's got a high ankle sprain, and they have the Colts and the Houston Texans right on their heels. I'll talk about that when I come back from the break. Plus peanut butter and jelly. That is the John Lynch, Cal Shanahan combination, that how they go together. I'll get into that. Of course, Packers stay hot, big win there. Talk about that. Good scope, bad scope, where I was right, where I was wrong about a lot of stuff over the weekend, especially college football. And, of course, I'll give you my NFL Power 5 and more. Let's go ahead and take our first and only break, and I'll be back here in 49 seconds here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty then, now I'm back here. Okay, so now Trevor Lawrence, got injured last night in the overtime loss here to Cincinnati. He's got a high ankle sprain. It's been reported now. Doug Peterson does not know whether he'll play or not. This coming up Sunday on a short week at Cleveland. So that is something that is going to be a major concern for the coaching staff. The fact that they have their left tackle on IR. Cam Robertson's been on IR, folks, for 8 days. So even if it's a 4-week deal, 4-game there, they've only got one game out of the way. So he can't come back for the next 3 games. Plus, on top of all that, the backup left tackle, he is considered questionable to come in there, and I'm trying to get his name right now. But I'll tell you what, I'm not really sure if I would go that route as far as playing him this week. C.J. Beathard's the backup. And Christian Kirk could be down for a while, from what I heard. So you're looking at Calvin Ridley. You're really depending on him. Ingram, who's usually good to the worst of the quarterbacks, at tight end there, and of course your running game. But like I said, they could possibly be down. Walker Little questionable with the hamstring, so that's the other left tackle. Did not realize that Jacksonville's only got a 1-game lead. Ironically, to this Jacksonville Jaguar team, Lawrence is going to be compared to, whether it's fair or not, folks, whether it's fair or not, he's going to be compared to Patrick Mahomes, okay? Last year in the divisional round, Mahomes gets a high ankle sprain in that particular game against Jacksonville, hobbles around. They go on and finish that game and eventually beat hobbles his way all the way with that really good defensive end, defense in general with Cincinnati, to a Super Bowl win over the Bengals. Unbelievable. 2 weeks later, high ankle sprain, folks, is 4 to 6 week injury. Mahomes in 3 weeks from that injury goes on and wins the Super Bowl. beats two more teams, Cincinnati and Philadelphia. They could not get a stop in the second half to this team. So Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain. This injury did not look as bad. The hit didn't look nowhere near as gruesome. You watch in slow motion as the Patrick Mahomes. It looked like one of the offensive linemen was pushed onto Mahomes' leg. I thought Mahomes had a much more serious injury than an ankle sprain. That's a tough son of a gun. He goes on, and we know what happened there. Plays through it. So there's going to be a little bit of pressure by Lawrence to do. Now, Mahomes had a healthy offensive line, and mind you, folks, he had a better offensive line than Jacksonville does now. Okay, Mahomes had Orlando Brown, who is now a Cincinnati Bengal. I don't know if Mahomes could survive with the same ankle sprain with this offensive line from the way it is constructed, you know. And then he had Wiley on the right side. This Jawan Taylor's having a whole lot of trouble on the right side of the line for Kansas City. But my thing is, when you're on your third left tackle and you're on your third left tackle and you're trying to block a potential defensive player of the year and Myles Garrett, short week, defenses are a little bit quicker. I don't know if I would even play him. Now, listen, they've got a 1-game lead there on. Like I said, they've got a game lead here. I'm trying to see if I can get the actual standings here. Between Cincinnati or Indianapolis is the higher seed at 7-5, followed by Houston 7-5. Now Houston's got their own problems. Tank Dell's going to be injured for a while. So if you look at this thing, listen, 8-4, Indianapolis 7-5, with 2 division losses there, and Houston at 1-2. And then you go back and look at Jacksonville's next few games here. They've got one against Cleveland, at Cleveland, arguably one of the better defenses in the whole league. Then they go play Baltimore at home on Sunday Night Football on the 17th. So those are 2 rough games there. I don't know if do you really want to put a Trevor Lawrence there? My guess is that Peterson will probably bench him this week. They'll let him rest this week since it's a short week. Nurse it up as much as possible and put Beathard in there. And although contrary of what Lawrence may be saying, let the swelling go down a little bit and go up there and try to win against Cleveland. The problem I have with Jacksonville hanging on to this division is they're 30th against the pass. Even going against a guy like Joe Flacco, who's not really accustomed to this offense. Maybe P.J. Walker comes back. Maybe Darrell DTR. Now, we don't know about Darrell T. We don't know about these other players here, if they're going to play or not this week. I haven't got that far into it. But either way, I'm not playing Trevor Lawrence against Cleveland next week. They have that 1-game cushion. Then they got to go home and play Baltimore, who leads the league in sacks. So you just don't want him to get really hurt here and totally blow it. And then, of course, towards the end of the season at Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee, they should be able to win all 3 of those, okay? And then, so like I said, you've got a 3-team race here. And you look at Houston, they're playing at the Jets, at Tennessee, versus Cleveland, and at Tennessee. Okay. Houston and the Colts. The Colts, one of the better lines in football. Gardner Minshew. This offense really taken to Shane Steichen. They got to play Cincinnati this week. So Cincinnati's a lot better than people think. Browning had a great game last night. But to finish up thoughts on the AFC South, essentially Houston and the Colts. That game, keep this in mind, that game could decide the AFC South on Sunday, January 7th. That game could get flexed out. It's the last game of the season, Sunday, January 7th. That could get flexed out to a 3 o'clock game there. There's a possibility that the Jaguars, as good as Baltimore's playing, that they could lose these next two and never catch up. They would be down by one game to both potentially to both Indianapolis and Jacksonville. Because they lose both of them, they would be down one game. Okay, so it is a wild division. I thought they had a 2 or 3 game cushion there. That's not the case here. So Peterson, he's going to have his hands full this week, folks. I tell you. But yeah, flip side here, Jake Browning, 32 for 37. You know, Pickles, I had going back to his performance last night. Zach Taylor, very as critical as I've been of him over the past, that was a very good game plan they had last week. Jamar Chase totally torched that secondary. I told you there, Jacksonville's 30th against the pass. Jamar Chase, 11 catches, 149 yards, 149 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. Caught everything but one pass. One of them was a long pass there that we saw in the highlight films. I actually did see that play. Browning, 32 for 37, 115 quarterback rating, 1 touchdown, no interceptions there. Something told me not to bet that game. You know, I had a really good week there. Played, had a good parlay with that Philadelphia game and the 49ers. Very good parlay. Took the Rams here. Took the anytime touchdown with Jalen Hurts and Christian McCaffrey there. Took the over there. Hit all of that on a $5 deal on that profit boost on FanDuel. It went on and threw in that Rams and Cleveland game. Threw it at Rams and Cleveland. And of course, the Rams won. Cleveland had Flacco, who just, you know, he did like a Josh Dobbs. The guy came to, he came to work here on like a Thursday and sign on Thursday or Tuesday or something like that and play on Sunday. Had a couple of different. So, you know, we'll have to see how that plays out. That remains to be seen. That is an injury to monitor. That is one to monitor. But with the left tackles out, I doubt if he'll play Sunday. Okay. All right. Again, high ankles normally 4 to 6 weeks, folks. So again, you know, they're going to have to really. Zay Jones is back. Calvin Ridley. You know, you can't just sit on the ball and run when you have that kind of defense. They desperately need help at the cornerback position there. There in Jacksonville. Okay, last night, folks, I had to catch up on some of my editing and clips there. It's good for marketing. When I've done it in the past, I've got some really good play there from the short videos and clips there. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on at our Butler 723 on Twitter, of course. And of course, you can find them on the Sports Coat Facebook page here from Mike Richmond's interview. Plus, Carlos is supposed to be in Friday, but he told me he's out of the country in Colombia. So I was going to play that clip where he actually predicted the right score. He predicted the actual score to the T for 27-24 Alabama over Georgia. I know there's a big controversy around this. A lot of people think that FSU got robbed and Texas nor Alabama deserves a right to play in the playoff. I'm not one of those people. Tomorrow I'll get into it. Plus, folks, I have returning guest Ken Norris. No relationship to Chuck Norris, the karate guy. Ken Norris, big Alabama fan, friend of mine from church, real funny guy, good personality. He'll be back on tomorrow. I'm gonna ask him. Here's something for you all to think about too, between today and tomorrow. Is if Alabama or Texas goes on and wins a national championship, and all 4 of those teams have an opportunity to do it this year, okay? Will it have an asterisk by it? That's something. Do you think that particular championship will have an asterisk by it since Florida State, undefeated Power 5 school, did not make the playoff, and both Alabama and Texas have lost a game? That's something for tomorrow, a little bit of a tease. So skip over. Let's go back to Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. Biggest game, one of the few games that I did get right yesterday or last week with Carlos, speaking of him, in predictions. San Francisco at Philadelphia. Listen, I rewatched it just now, folks, and I don't know if you caught this. Brock Purdy didn't have a completion in the first quarter. He didn't have a completion in the first quarter, and they were down 6-0 in the first quarter. Now, the second quarter, you really got to commend. You really got to commend Kyle Shanahan. You really got to commend Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy switching on. Usually, if you see a box score like a 42-19 like that, you think that they just got off on a well of a start. They got up 28-0, and it was a lot of fluke, crazy plays, tip passes for fumbles, interceptions, touchdowns, special teams. It was nothing like that. It was 3 and out, field goal, 6-0 at the end of the first quarter by the Eagles. And then you could see Shanahan adjust the game plan on the fly, starts running jet sweeps to the far right, and starts running between the left guard and left tackle instead of up the middle, with Christian McCaffrey there, and doing some a lot of motion there, and getting Debo. Obviously, he scored off of a running play, a jet sweep, but he also scored off of crossing routes, a lot of play action there, hitting Kittle there as he's released off the line of scrimmage. He took advantage. Made adjustments on the fly, really caught the Eagles napping there, and just ran roughshod from the start. Once they started scoring from the second quarter on, the Eagles were on their heels the rest of the night. Listen, I made some notes here. 8 for 11 that Brock Purdy was on third down. I mean, that is unbelievable. That is near perfect. 8 for 11. You're going to win a lot of games pending no turnovers. 8 for 11 on third down. Their defense played well. 49ers defense also made some adjustments there. 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss on arguably the best offensive line in football in the Philadelphia Eagles. And they had Lane Johnson play, folks. That's hard to do when you are playing against a mobile, accurate quarterback like a Jalen Hurts. Brock Purdy, by the way, 148 quarterback rating from the third drive on, being now 6-0, put an absolute clinic there. So it's definitely, they look like that they're on the right course when healthy, okay? And, I'm looking at the balance of power on both sides of the football for the 49ers. And, they're like peanut butter and jelly. Kyle Shanahan is, a guy that his dad coached in the league, ran a really good zone blocking running scheme for John Elway, got the 2 Super Bowls there. He's a Hall of Fame coach, in my opinion, there. Kyle Shanahan made it to playoffs with other quarterbacks as well, including guys like Robert Griffin III, Jake Plummer. And you look at a guy like John Lynch, who is a former Defensive Player of the Year, won a Super Bowl primarily on defense between him, Warren Sapp there, and Derek Brooks with the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So my thing is, when you got an offensive-minded head coach that's your head coach, what's the knock on offensive-minded head coaches? Their defenses are usually really bad, and they're not very physical. They're more finesse than physical. Well, you've got the combination of Kyle Shanahan, his schemes, his flexibility and ability to change the game plan on the fly. But you've also got the physicality and the kind of players that John Lynch is bringing in. And you think about the money being spent. Okay, they went out, they spend money on left tackle. They got Trent Williams. He wanted to help out Shanahan, but he also wanted to redo. He wanted to extend massive deal for Nick Bosa, defensive end. They've also former Philadelphia Eagle, Javon Hargrave. He's got a big contract. They made a. John Lynch said we needed help on the other side of the ball. Just before the trade deadline, made a trade, got a very talented, pretty hefty salary for a guy that's still on rookie contract. Chase Young, remember, he was the former number 2 overall pick. So you've got that balance where they're paying guys. They paid Fred Warner a second big contract. They paid Nick Bosa a second big contract. They acquired, they added a free agent, a pretty healthy contract to play defensive tackle, and Javon Hargrave. Offensively, throw in Deebo Samuel, just signed another big deal at receiver. They acquired a pretty expensive running back in Christian McCaffrey. They re-signed George Kittle. You see the perfect flexibility of money being spent, and you got your defensive minded head coaches, where you got a lot of guys on rookie deals on, for example, Mike Tomlin, who lost again this week. Well, I said, you got to worry about this guy. He plays down in competition. I said that before Sunday, and of course they lost to Arizona. They put a lot of their money playing guys like T.J. Watt, Mika Fitzpatrick, okay, Cameron Hayward. He got another deal. How many guys have got second contracts on offense? I can't tell you of any. Freiermuth is on a rookie deal. Kenny Pickett's on a rookie deal. George Pickens, these are talented players. He's also on a rookie deal. I want to say maybe they re-signed Deontay Johnson, but you didn't see that. So you need that kind of accordion type of flex on both sides of the ball. Know who to pay, know who not to pay. Don't pay too much for the other side. Obviously, you want to lean more offensive. That's where I've been talking about for a very long time. You want to lean more offensive, okay? You want to get that left tackle taken care of. You want to get a really good, flexible, versatile tight end if you can, like a George Kittle, although they took him. Ideally, you would love to have all these guys get paid the way they have. Now, of course, they got a little lucky there with Brock Purdy. The main key in the main clog in this thing is you've got Brock Purdy, a 7th-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, on a rookie contract. He's getting paid practically nothing. He's living off bonuses, you know? So you look at I expect this. If this team stays healthy, nobody's going to stop them, man. I mean, Baltimore, Kansas City beat them up on last year. They tightened that secondary up. A lot of the corners are playing a lot better this year. You see what I'm saying? But nobody's going to beat them this year. I don't see anybody, but you see the balance that you could see the respect there. A lot of times there's the general manager, but the coach has all the power. A lot of times a very young coach, like, say, Nick Sirianni for Philadelphia, well, you know that the 20-year plus, and his name slipped my mind, and I shouldn't because he's one of the best in the business, and I really admire him. The Eagles, that general manager's got all the power. He's going after what he wants. So you can see what this should be emulated, okay? 2 back-to-back NFC championship games, Super Bowl appearance back in 2019, and they really haven't had a superstar quarterback. Nobody really thinks Jimmy Garoppolo. He got a second contract, but nobody really thinks Jimmy Garoppolo was ever a superstar, okay? He's never compared to a Patrick Mahomes or even a Josh Allen or anybody close to that, you know. So they're kind of laying the blueprint there. Get the clever offensive, but also get a strong-willed general manager there that says, listen, we've got to explore paying the other side of the ball here. You know, maybe they can do without a Fred Warner because I'm not a big linebacker guy. But you could see they added Randy Gregory. So they really added on those pass rushers. Okay. Yeah. Was it Roseman? Yeah. Roseman there for Eagles, one of the best in the game. That's why these teams are what they are, right? So it's peanut butter and jelly pickles. Cal Shanahan and John Lynch. They got a good working relationship here. Okay. I know I put this in my games to pick against the spread. Didn't put much thought of this Green Bay Kansas City game. Kansas City was 6-point favorites. Did not apologize to you guys. I really didn't put as much thought into that as I probably should have because right before kickoff, I had a bunch of big parlays I hit over the weekend, and I started to bet that game. And I just didn't have a good feeling about it. The same thing with Jacksonville. There's something about that Jacksonville game. I just shook my head and I thought, you know what? I should take Jacksonville. They're 8-point favorites. They should mop Cincinnati. But, that guy was putting together pretty good. I like the way Cincinnati hung in there against Pittsburgh last week. Maybe I'll pass. And both games went the other way, right? And my bad. That was my bad there. But let's start with Green Bay. Two long drives for touchdowns. Green Bay. Kansas City. Green Bay does. Kansas City only had, and I made these notes here, 2 drives before the 2-minute warning. Okay. Matt Fleur with a nearly flawless game plan executed in that game. When you're going against a much superior quarterback and coach combination between Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, all right? Much, much more superiority. This is like Peyton Manning back in his prime. This is Tom Brady in his prime with Bill Belichick, even though Brady, this is not 2007 where they're really, really good offensively. But when you play these teams, this team's multiple Super Bowl wins. You're at home. You're with Jordan Love there. You want to suffocate and keep it. And look, they're forfeiting points allowed in the NFL coming into this game. That Kansas City defense, although the injuries are starting to mount there, their best linebackers out, Nick Bolton, and then they had a scare there at safety there. But the way they held on to the ball and the passes that Jordan Love, like I said, he's earned a year just by watching him in the LA Chargers game, in the Detroit game. Now you've all seen him in a big, big primetime game here. Jordan Love and this team that cannot take a lot of chances, this Green Bay Packer team. Remember, they're owned by like the city or something. They're one of the poorest teams in the league. They're the smallest town in the league. They're up there in an ice box in Green Bay, Wisconsin. No offense, Roof, my friend from work there, who's from Milwaukee, huge Packer fan. We talked about it Monday, right? And so you have to be you can't be quick. You have to slow draft and take your time with your scouts and develop players. And you think about it, man. These guys, they're sitting way up there. Kind of remind me of Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers in the early days, right? Holmgren's gone. Brett Favre's gone. Nobody. Okay, this guy falls to the 20s. This guy, Aaron Rodgers. And this other guy, he was pretty close there, Jordan Love. Both sit on the bench 3 years, okay? Both have a fairly young team around them, okay? Let's talk about Jordan Love per se. You got guys like Jaden Reed, who's a rookie. He's already developing early chemistry with Jordan Love. Musgrave, the tight end here, he's already having chemistry there. Christian Watson, he's only in his second year. He's really breaking out. He showed some signs there later on with Rodgers here. So all of these guys, and then you got guys like Rashawn Gary's only been with this team like 3 years or 4 years or something like. He just signed a new contract here. Rashawn Gary, the tight end there, or the defensive end on the defensive side. Jar Alexander's second contract. But none of these guys are like grizzly veterans on this team. If you really think of it, Quay Walker was a second-year linebacker, very talented, a little bit of a knucklehead, but very talented. So you're seeing this unit here. Other than Aaron Jones, all these guys are very. A.J. Dillon, third-year guy, right? A little slow, but he's picked up on speed. Their left tackle Bakhtiari's been out for a long time. The fill-in's doing good. And you got a guy like Matt LaFleur. Best coaching job he's had his whole career was in that game Sunday night. You know, it was a absolute masterpiece of hanging on to the ball. No mistakes made. Jordan Love has had 4 games this season. CBS put this out. 3 touchdowns, 0 interception. No one in the NFL has more. Okay. I mean, they absolutely played extremely well there Sunday here. You have to give it to them. Matt LaFleur in December, he's 16-0 as a Packers head coach. You know, part of me thinks that maybe Aaron Rodgers, the rift between him and LaFleur was a distraction, Pickles. You know? I mean, this guy looks like, I ain't saying he's going to be a star like Rodgers. That's saying too much. But, you know, Green Bay was hitting them from every angle. They were taking chances, going up the field, converting third downs. Then they go for it on a 4th down on the 50-yard line. That touchdown he threw to Watson, that was Jordan Love was very Patrick Mahomes-like. Okay. And then you said, well, there was a missed call there on Valdez-Scantling. But, you know, when you're playing with a guy like Mahomes and you've got a Andy Reid coach him, you don't like to just depend on the referees. You don't like to play the what-if game. Okay. What if Valdez-Scantling would have caught, I think it was him, a couple of weeks ago when they lost to Philadelphia? What if he catches that and they're inside the 5-yard line? They score there. You don't want to play that game when you have this kind of talent there at quarterback, you know? So it's you at some point you got to get the opposition some credit here, you know? And these guys played. Now, if they would have lost that game, you could say, well, they played a near perfect game. It still couldn't beat the Chiefs. But remember, they were 6-point underdogs, and they won by 8. They won by 8 points. Who would have said that? Even though it was in Green Bay. You know, Mahomes has one of the best road records in the NFL. You know? So, very good job there. They were not the least bit intimidated. They're way up there by themselves, and you know they're just putting in the work. They're putting in the work. Nobody's paying any attention to them, and the lights went off over these last few games that I just mentioned. You know, what was it? What does CBS say here? Let me go back here to this stat. I'll read it to you again. Jordan Love has 4 games this season with 3 touchdown passes, 0 interception up in the NFL, and some big wins. So now they're right in it with Minnesota. They're right in the wild card. I mean, it's not a lock now with Detroit losing a few weeks ago to this team, it's not a lock Detroit's going to win that. I still think they'll probably find a way. That was a big win for Detroit. But, you just cannot say, okay, this is Detroit. These guys are going to be garbage. That's not going to be the case now with this Green Bay Packer team, folks. But, they're gaining confidence on both sides. Like I said, the battles is perfect game plans you can have. So, kudos, Matt LaFleur. I mean, I thought this guy was way overrated. And maybe it was more about Rodgers and the tension he was bringing in there than the fact that he was overrated, So anyways, alrighty then. So I got you that. Now let's go with good scope basketball. Where I was right, where I was wrong. And I was wrong a lot last weekend, folks. Good scope. Despite being on the road and getting demolished last year. Remember, the Eagles totally destroyed, knocked out Brock Purdy early. Hassan Reddick, same guy in the game this year. You thought maybe Brock Purdy would be a little gun shy. This is where he had this really horrific injury. Looked that way early on. They didn't get a first. He didn't get a completion in the first quarter. He didn't get a completion in the first quarter. No points scored. Didn't get a completion in the first quarter. But they go on and win by 3 touchdowns and really expose that defense. This is about 27-28 Philadelphia in pass defense. Found ways to run on it. So I was right about 49ers getting that win on the road at Philadelphia. Bad scope. Man, my college football picks were a mess last weekend. I should have stuck with my preseason pick. Alabama over Georgia in the SEC championship game, but I do not like to be narrative guy, folks. There was no evidence. There was no evidence. If you watched every Georgia game and every Alabama game, the big ones I did, if you look at every Georgia score, every Alabama box score, they both struggled against Tennessee early. But not as bad, okay? Georgia got down early, was it 7-0 Tennessee? And then I think it was and then they got outscored 38-3 the rest of the game, beating Tennessee 38-10. Alabama down at home, multiple scores at halftime to Tennessee, shut Tennessee out in the second half, struggled much more than Georgia did. You look at Georgia Auburn at Auburn, had Georgia down in the second half, and Georgia pulls away late in the game, does not come down to the last throw like it did against Alabama, the 4th and 31. So Alabama down a touchdown, I want to say, down a touchdown on the road at Texas A&M. Alabama had to come back from that, beat by 10 at home to Texas. Alabama defense totally on the ropes before Jalen Daniels, who's going to the Heisman presentation for LSU. 28 points allowed on that defense to LSU, right, in the second half. At this point, Monroe's playing a lot better. Alabama struggled against South Florida, okay? So you put all that together, then you look at Alabama. They did play well in the second half against Ole Miss, but if you look at Georgia down the stretch, destroyed Kentucky, destroyed Ole Miss, okay? Destroyed Tennessee in November, right? Second half. So you could see Georgia just looked like a team. People thought they struggled. They beat Georgia Tech by 8, okay? Beat them by 8. Beat Missouri by 9. Missouri blown out Tennessee, blown out Kentucky. Missouri turns out to be a really good team. Held Georgia, only team that really had Georgia on the ropes other than Ohio State in the regular season at home. Remember? Miss Missouri. So you could see they had a better resume leading up to the game. Real cool, calm, and collective. and Alabama's talent just they rose to the occasion. Defense played really well, really slowed the run down, and they beat them. So, but I was wrong about that. We were discussing, even though we got it on, I got it on recording. We didn't want to count this game. I thought Oregon, man, I don't know if Oregon's 9.5 points better, but they outrushed Washington. Going back to that game, they just had more yards, but Washington rose to the occasion, beat Oregon pretty decisively there in the neutral. So I was wrong about that. I was thinking Louisville, third string quarterback from Florida State. I'm pretty sure that Louisville's going to beat them, and of course that doesn't happen. Ugly game. Florida State wins with a third string quarterback. So that was bad scope on all of that stuff, folks. All of the college games, I was wrong about. Rough weekend for the college here. So good scope. After big road win against Detroit, I thought Jordan Love deserves one more year. Jordan Love, 118 quarterback rating last Sunday. He hit his first 9 attempts. He was red hot against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are pretty well coached there on defense with Steve Spagnuolo. Bad scope. This is bad scope. Thinking since Ron Rivera fired Jack Del Rio on Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving Day game, where they got blown out in front of 40 million people, blown out in front of 40 million people there, that the Commanders would bounce back. They would get physical with, they would play press man. They would get physicals, all get out with Miami and keep that within that 9.5 point spread. Instead, they lose 45-20. Like my friend Mike Richmond told me, Rivera has personnel control. Was seeing the failure of that with Bill Belichick in New England, who was shut out again. We saw that with Bill O'Brien at the end. It fell off of a cliff in Houston when he had personnel control there. That's why Watson wanted out there. So I was wrong about that. They get blown out 45-20. It looks like that it looks like that that he will get fired here, that they've quit on him, that they've quit on Ron Rivera. And I just hate that because I've liked the guy, but Mike Rich, he had a good point. Said the guys had been to playoffs twice. Yeah, he got coach of the year. You're always saying his team's run up. Maybe they're underdogs because he's not coaching them upright, So back to good scope here. As I said last week, if Alabama with one loss beats a 29-game winning streak Georgia, I cannot see them not getting in the playoff. I didn't think it would work out the way it did because I thought Florida State would lose, But, of course, that was not the case. That was not the case. UC, two-time winning champ with one loss. They should have jumped a no-loss FSU. Did not think committee had the guts, folks, to do it against a Power 5 undefeated team. Florida State did beat LSU, with Jordan and Travis out, but double-digit underdog. So, basically, I was saying that Florida with Alabama with that big a win over Georgia, they would jump these guys. And I'll get into the college game. I get a bit more tomorrow, folks. But I was right about that. Like I said, if the Alabama wins, they're gonna get in the playoff. So that was basically what I figured like I was right about. Pickle says the Patriots are at their lowest in 20 years. Yeah, they have personnel issues. Heard a stat the other day that the Patriots, folks, have the slowest offense in the league, in the entire league. Put in Bailey Zappi, gets shut out at home by a clown like Brandon Staley. Mac Jones in there still can't do nothing. I want to say the Patriots have like the 3 pick right now. And they're hanging on for dear life for that. They probably need to lose out. Losing to the Giants was not good. At minimum, they've got to get a regular general manager. Kraft has got to have that conversation. Says this is falling off of a truck here. We're at a very low point. Okay, we're the 1994 Patriots. Before, I think it was 95 when they drafted Drew Bledsoe. Okay, it might have been 93, but one of those years, to get the first overall pick, you got to have the worst record in the league, right? This is the team before they drafted Drew Bledsoe. And then in 96, they got all the way to the Super Bowl. And then they lost to a good Packer team. But, the players they put around them with Parcells there. And then eventually going back to Belichick, we know what happened in 2001 with Brady and everybody. So they went on their long run there. So that leads me back to the NFL Power 5 here. Let's start off with number 5. Kansas City slides to 5 this week, folks. I mentioned Nick Bolton was out. Brian Cook, remember, he got hurt in the game. There was a scare. I think he's going to be okay, but he's probably going to be out for a little while. Nick Bolton, best linebacker, he was out, and you're starting to see that not quite as tight as they've been lately. Okay. But, that being said, they still got a 2-game lead in their division. There was a potential pass interference. That was true. Probably should have been called, and that would have put them in scoring position with a chance to tie the game. I'm going to say they won by the chance to tie the game there, but that wasn't the case there. And, they average 22 points a game now. So that's why I got them down to 5. I could have them lower, but they are Kansas City. They are the Super Bowl champs. They know how to win. Rashid Rice is getting better. And you could see that he's starting to use the running backs more there. The second year, was his name Pacheco, whatever. Isaiah Pacheco. He kind of reminds me of a poor man's Chris Johnson. So you're starting to see other elements. I think they need to be doing more of the screen game. My complaints on my critiques, in air quote, on Mahomes, he needs to be more of a precision passer, 1-2 step throw quarterback. They need to use more wide receiver screens. They need to use more screens, sideline screens with Pacheco. And, of course, they got McKinnon as well. I think they're going to continue to lean into that. But they still got a, above average defense here. Like 6th in total points there. Still really well coached. Chris Jones back there. Snead back there. And they get both of those corners are good. A.J. Brown had 1 catch for 5 yards against them. All right. So they're still good there. And they still got Mahomes and Reed. They still got that combo there. So you can't totally write them off. I got them at 5th. A lot of people, some say maybe you should put Dallas there, but who's Dallas really beat this year? Remember, they lost to the Eagles and they got blown out by the 49ers. Maybe if Dallas wins this week, okay. Maybe if Dallas beats the Eagles this week and say that Buffalo's coming off a bye week and they're very desperate, what if the Bills, who's only 2.5-point underdogs, what if they beat Kansas City? Well, then I may drop Kansas City out on top 5, slide up the NFC Dallas Cowboys in there, okay? All right, now, Baltimore. Now, they're coming off of a late bye week. So I could see them potentially going on the run. They play the Rams this week. Baltimore, by the way, that was off last week, still leads the league in sacks, folks. They still lead the league in sacks. They are second in rush offense, and they are second. They're number 1 in rushing, and they're second in run defense. with Lamar Jackson, he's having a Hall of Fame. He's having a MVP type of season here. So I've got them at number 4, Baltimore. Now, let me say this. Let me clarify. Yeah, they could go on a run because they're coming off a bye week and be a better team. But they've also got to play the 49ers. They got to play Miami. And they've got to play Pittsburgh towards the end of the season. So it's not like you said, what about Pittsburgh? They look banged up. Kenny Pickett may be back by then towards the end of the season. Pittsburgh has always matched up well against them. Pittsburgh beat them earlier this season, so they're not out of the woods. It's good that they're coming off of a bye week because that's helped your fresh legs, your physical teams. It's good to have that late bye in the season if you're in the playoff hunt and you don't have any season-ending injuries. I've seen this a lot, Pickles, with teams coming off their bye week. For example, once Tampa, with Tom Brady's first year in 2020, once they came off their late bye week, they went on a run all the way up to the Super Bowl and won the thing. And remember, they didn't even win their division, folks. They went to New Orleans and beat them in New Orleans. Okay, so I got Baltimore number 4, and I may move them up. Okay, number 3, Miami. You say, why would you put Miami against Baltimore? For one thing, Tua is 2-0 against the Ravens. Beat them up there in Baltimore last year. Came back late. Torched that secondary. Torched them at the end. Beat them late. And the year before that, they beat them down in Miami. The Miami beat them. And listen, folks, due to the winning percentage, they're higher ranking. They're a higher seed than Baltimore. Okay? They're a higher seed than Baltimore. Since Jalen Ramsey came back, they shut out Kansas City in the second half. And over the last 3 additional games, they've only averaged 14 points. Okay? You look, they've got Devon Achane back at running back, and they've got Mostert. They've got that 1-2 punch there. All right? You're starting to see the defense we saw a few weeks ago. The safety there made a pick six, 90-something yards, 120-something, 24 yards total against the Jets. And he said that's against the Jets. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But Miami with Ramsey, Xavier Howard, okay, with Bradley Chubb, the end there, with them playing the way they are playing with him, this team's looking really good. They're looking. Their defense is tightening up over the last few weeks. Again, they play Baltimore head up in a few weeks. We're going to find out they got to play Tennessee Monday. Pickles, they're 13.5-point favorites. No Jeffrey Simmons and probably no Derrick Henry. They could run roughshod over Tennessee. Okay, so keep an eye out for this Miami Dolphin teams. I got them up to number 3 here. All right. Okay, Eagles have dropped. Eagles number 2, still the best record in the NFL. Still the best record in the NFL. Let's see. Now, listen, if they beat Dallas, they could beat Dallas Sunday. They've signed Shaq Leonard. Okay. Probably still the best offensive line, if not the second best offensive line in the NFL. All right. They've added help at linebacker here. You can't run up the middle on them. You still can't run up on the middle on them. So, for instance, if they beat Dallas, folks, which they could, they're slight underdogs right now, like 3.5 points. If they beat Dallas, they've got Seattle, the Giants twice, with as messed up as the Giants are, and then they've got Arizona. I mean, they could run the table and be 15-2. Not only the best record in the in the NFC that have the best record in the NFL. Now, I think Dallas will probably win, what I'm looking at right now. But, they could, yeah. And, of course, Pickles thinks that he's assuming, and he's assuming right. The 49ers, when fully healthy, 2 big blowout wins to the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're blowing people. I mean, they blew out Jacksonville. They blew out Pittsburgh. They're borderline. Jacksonville's winning their division. Blew out Pittsburgh, who is in the playoff hunt there as well. You look at Dallas and Philadelphia's records alone, you're talking 19-5. The 49ers in 3rd in total offense, 5th in total defense. Nobody can beat them right now. If the playoffs started today, now I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, folks. At the preseason, I thought that Cincinnati would beat them in the Super Bowl. Of course, with Joe Burrow being out there, and I couldn't do that. So, yeah, the 49ers, Pickles has got me down. Chiefs, number 5. Thank you, Pickles. Ravens, number 4. Dolphins, number 3, because of the tightening up of their defense, getting a little bit better. Vic Fangio doing more with the defense. Haven't you noticed that? Because he knows he's got good coverage on the back end with the 1-2 cornerback punch. And, of course, Eagles, very good, very tough to beat. At number 2, there's still a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball, contrary of the pass defense. And mind you, folks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020 did not have that great a pass defense, but they were so good up front, and they had such a good front 7. It didn't make any difference about the back 4. They won the Super Bowl anyway. So, and of course, 49ers, not a lot of holes. Good peanut butter and jelly combo with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, general manager. And they finally got the right quarterback there. Okay. So anyways, I know that tomorrow, I know you guys want me to get into this college football thing. I will get into it tomorrow. Going to give you some quotes from both sides. Okay. I'm on the side that I didn't think the committee had the nerve to put Alabama in or Texas in over FSU, but I think it was the right pick. I'll talk about that tomorrow. And again, Ken Norris, Alabama fan, pretty good college football guy as well. Going to bring him back on and get his opinion. Probably one of Nick Saban's best coaching jobs over this season. Talk about that. Maybe talk a little bit about that Final Four. I tell you what, this Final Four, I'll leave you with this. Any one of these teams, they started this thing back in 2014, 2015. Remember Marcus Mariota? We all thought that maybe Oregon was going to finally win the national championship, and Alabama was in it that year. Okay. At Florida State, remember they won the year before, but 13 and 14, they won the year before. They were undefeated, and when they played Oregon, they got demolished. Okay. Then just a few bad plays, a few mishaps. Ohio State, Urban Meyer beats Nick Saban. Ohio State goes on and wins a national championship over Oregon. That's the first year of the playoff. That was 14-15, right? Fast forward till now, we're in 23-24, right? First year, I think even Washington, as physical as Washington is, much they play on defense, great quarterback here, should be an NFL draft pick. Look at all the talent, the speed on Texas. We saw what Texas can do. Alabama gradually getting better and better and better. And, of course, Michigan, a lot of people's picking Michigan to win the whole thing again this year. all those teams can win a national championship. The year it's, Cincinnati, never thought Cincinnati could win the year without. The other year, Washington, Notre Dame, never thought those teams had a shot in the dark to win the national championship. Okay? So it's a lot that I'll tease you with that in the business. That's what they call a tease. So again, I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll dig deep in that. Maybe talk a little bit more NFL as well here tomorrow here on Sports Scope. Have a good night, everybody.